We'll stand for the pledge. Are you guys gonna lead us in the pledge today?
Are you ready? Here we go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I should have announced that this is our Garfield Early Childhood Center starting the pledge for us. Leading us in the pledge tonight. So thank you.
We're gonna sing our little chant.
Awesome. Little buffaloes are so cool.
Little buffaloes are so cool.
We follow school rules.
We follow school rules.
Be responsible.
Be responsible.
Be respectful.
Be respectful.
Be safe.
Be safe.
We will
do great.
So I know you all are doing your building presentation. We have just a couple of quick items. Is that okay? Do you want to? Oh, yes, definitely a picture. Or should we do it after their presentation?
These guys might take off.
Okay, then let's do it.
I'm like, yeah.
Is Mike gonna take it? Okay, good.
I got this. What about high five?
Oh, my goodness, this is a good looking fruit right here.
I'm always in the
Here,
front.
let's-
They're gonna take a picture.
Ready? Ready?
Oh gosh, how did I get up there?
Look. All right, this is one, Barb. Ready to go?
Look at the camera. 1, 2, 3.
Cheese.
Gotcha.
Awesome
Good job.
Good job, guys. All right.
Thank you. Step forward so I can get up. Step forward so I can get up. You got it. Thank you.
It was a great job too. Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, Madam President, I move that we approve the agenda with the following amendments. Move item E3C, bid plant facilities, 3/4 ton pickup rebid to item G3, new business. And number 2, add item E5, certified and classified personnel actions for consideration.
Second. Do we have any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Great. We will move on to delegations, Q&A, and public comment, and we have one public comment, Mr. Bill Wilson.
Here or there?
You can come up to the podium if you want.
Back there. No, I just had a question on, I've been in the district a long time. I was here as a teacher for over 30 years, and then the last 5 years I've been a sub. And as you know, she said dress, did you say what I was introducing? No, okay,
No.
dress code policy. Because I've seen it over the years and had to deal with it and stuff. And now I'm in a different role as a sub. And so I see it, I sub mostly and I'm not in any way throwing anybody under the bus, teachers or administrators or anything. But I see it happening. I'm at the middle schools mostly, and I see it. And what bothers me is I see it 4th or 5th period during the day, and I know it should be addressed. And I can even say it at that time, I'm kind of passing the buck and not dealing with it or not knowing. I guess my question is there a district one? Is there a set in stone one for each school or what? So I guess that's kind of, but I think it's something that I hope that we're not expanding the boundaries of saying, it's just something that kids do now. And if we dealt with it, we're going to be dealing with it all the time. And I don't think it bothers me. And I got a daughter, but she's way older than these kids and stuff. And I definitely wouldn't want her wearing what I see sometimes worn. And the biggest thing is, I guess, is that I see it later in the day and it hasn't been addressed. And I'm just wondering if it ever is at times. So that's all I got to say about that.
I appreciate the comments, but I'm wondering if I could deviate and just ask a quick clarification question. You're talking about student dress code, not
Yes.
staff dress code.
Yeah, student.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
That is.
Okay, so we will move on to the GC Achieve Most Improved FAFSA Completion Award.
Can't flash.
It's okay. All right, so we have Christina Youngman and Lucas Sullivan here tonight from Garden City Achieve. Both awards, we're really, really proud of these folks at Achieve for what they're doing. The first one is a Board of Regents recognition for working with staff or students to complete the FAFSA. So I'm gonna let, which one of you want to talk about that award and what you have done to get there?
Well, first off, I can take absolutely no credit for this. It's all Mrs. Yockman, our counselor, that has done this. And she could expand a little bit, but I think just a lot of workshops and then working over and over and over with our juniors and our senior graduates to get them what they need on the track for whether it's college or being ready for the workforce after college.
And that's what I've tried really hard over the last couple of years to incorporate, where we work one-on-one with the students or we offer workshops. So we invite the students in, they fill out their FAFSA IDs, and then they fill out the student portion. And then we send information home so they can complete the family portion at home, because it does take a family to finish it. But our goal is, a lot of our students want to go to college, and so we want to help them get the financial aid to get there. And I don't think a whole lot has been done in our building for that. So that's been a goal over the last couple of years.
Well, my comment would be, thank you very much, because I think that is one of the things that we've talked about with GC Achieve too. It's not the alternative school anymore. It's just an alternative way of going through the system. And I have appreciated, and I believe this even started with your predecessor, is always putting that message in the student's mind that you can be college bound if that's what you want to be. And the FAFSA is not an easy thing. And I think, like all levels, you know, it's again, a federal form, and it's a big process. And so I know it takes a lot of time and energy on your part probably to get just students in, and then also parents to complete. And what a great thing for your students to help them through that process. So thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah, and certainly congratulations for being recognized for your efforts. Thank you so
That's
much.
actually a surprise to us.
Yes, it was. Yeah, I get a call from the state and I'm like, oh, what's going on now? So it was a pleasant surprise. It was good.
Well, it's even better when you're not working for reward, right? And you get a reward in the process. So that just tells like your dedication to your students and to their success. So thank you.
The second award is also for both of them as individuals, though I will say. Both Lucas and Christina have been nominated as Life Changer of the Year Award for that recognition. Our district has been really fortunate to have people nominated in the past and actually receive the award. So we're really hopeful. We won't know for a while whether they are actually the winner with the cash that goes with that. But to be recognized for that and what it really means to be a life changer. And they were recognized by people in the community that nominated them. So please, part of what happens with this process is their profiles go up on the Life Changer website. And they like for people to come in and comment on that and tell them how you know them or support them. So the more comments they get on the Life Changer website, the better their shots are at getting some kind of recognition down the road. But both of them were nominated as individuals. And I think, Dana, you kind of spoke to some of the changes we're seeing there. I think these are actually very, very well-deserved awards. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other board members want to address or say anything?
I think it's great. You know, I've seen some advancement already. You know, I think you guys are definitely moving in the right direction. Prior even to the awards, I've spoken to people there, and I think it's good.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, yes. So that's why it's always good to have two people kind of trying to run the show. So as you may know, we have our newest board member at the table tonight. This is Andy Farmeyer, and I hope I know I speak for the board that we're excited that you're with us. And so Andy Farmeyer is with us tonight. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hold on tight. Hello. Sorry about that, Andy. I should have done that at the beginning. Okay, so we will move on to the building presentation, and we have Garfield Early Childhood Center.
All right, I'm Andrea Baker. I'm the principal at Garfield Early Childhood Center. This is my 5th year as principal there. Before that, I was instructional coach and then also a preschool teacher. Thank you very much for having us and wanting to learn about Garfield. So each person up here is going to share a little bit about what's happening at Garfield. So this is our theme this year. The road to success is always under construction. So we want to make sure we're building a strong foundation at Garfield. So that is our background. It's just going to go down. Okay. All right. All right. So we do have a new mascot this year. We were the little Longhorns from when Garfield Elementary School was in that building. And it was brought to us and thought about that if we have students starting their preschool careers in USD-457 and then graduating from the high school as buffaloes, that we wanted to start as little buffaloes. So we have a new mascot this year. We have shirts in the making. They're not with us yet, so we couldn't wear those tonight, but those are coming. So some things that have been happening at Garfield. In August of 2021, we started transitioning some of our classrooms. We had about 12 classrooms that were special education classrooms. So they would have 50% of the class were on IEPs or individualized education plans. And then the other 50% or a little less were peer role models. And then we had regular education classrooms. And then we had one RISE classroom. That was more of our structured teach classroom. So in August 2021, we began transitioning 8 of our classrooms over to be 25% special education and 75% general education. And then again, this year we switched 8 more classrooms over. And then next year will be our remaining classes that will switch over. So with the 2575, it's about 4 to 5 students that are on an IEP. And then the other 12 are then the role models for those kids. So some of the testimonies of some of those teachers that have transitioned their classrooms is just a lot more of that vocabulary and the peer models being those examples for the kiddos on IEPs and hearing that language and seeing the social skills and things like that. So just have more of that role model in the classroom. And then also this year we added a second RISE classroom. And we're really needing to add a third RISE classroom. Miss Melanie will be sharing in a few more slides just the number of students that are coming into Garfield that are nonverbal. They could be on the spectrum, different things. So we're wanting to have that structured makeup of a classroom for them to best meet their needs. So she'll talk a little bit more about that. We do have a Kansas Preschool Pilot Grant that is written every year, and that does help to provide funds for our school. So it helps to pay for teacher, paras, our counselor salaries, some of their salaries. It helps with professional development and classroom supplies. So that is a grant that's written every year, and it is getting more competitive. So just last year, some districts that had applied didn't get it, that had received it in the past, or some received less money than what they had actually asked for. So we continue to get it, and we keep getting a little more money every year from that grant. And we also are getting some funds through ESSERS. So we have a 0.5 assistant principal, which is part of Melanie's position. That's paid for through ESSERS. We were able to add another preschool classroom last year, so that was paying for teacher and para. And then we have added an app that is helping with our interventions and enrichment. So it is an app the students are able to play on. It does math, literacy, social emotional, and we're actually able to track the students' data on this app. So it's not just a game they're on and playing and we don't know if they're making growth. So we're using our ESSERS funds with that. Here's some, yes.
Is that something that they, I guess they can't take the equipment home, so that's not something they can use at home, is it?
This app, actually, we can share with parents. We haven't done that yet because we want to make sure, we don't want kids on screen time a lot. So right now we're really monitoring that, and we want to see what the app actually is capable of doing. But when it comes to summertime, we're able to share the link with families and they're able to continue that throughout the summer.
That's great.
So here's a couple pictures of kiddos in whole group. So we have 3, 4, and 5-year-olds that they'll come to story time at the carpet with the teacher. One of the things the district is working on is turn and talk or think, pair, share. So this picture on the left, the teacher has her kids in their small groups and they were discussing a question together. Here's some of our small groups. So teachers and paras might have a few students coming over to the tables to work with them. We do have a research-based curriculum that we use designed specifically for preschool. We have state standards that we're doing that are specific for preschool. Here the kids are in centers. More center time, so you'll see writing centers, block centers, dramatic play centers. So what looks like a lot of playing is developing a lot of pre-writing, pre-math, social skills, a lot of things to prepare them for kindergarten. Here our kids are in music and movement. So it's kind of like our PE music class. When the students go to this class, teachers are able to have a planning time during this. So these are our goals for this year. So we want 100% of our students that are tested on my IGDs, which is our standardized assessment. You'll hear more about it in a few slides. 100% of those kids going on to kindergarten being on target for sound ID, being on target for picture naming, so vocabulary. And then as a building, we are going through the letters training. That is something that's being provided by the state this year that is free. So all of our certified staff are going through that this year. We just got started on it on our last in-service day. So, and then of course, district goals. Our building, of course, is working on kindergarten readiness. We work on academics and we work on a lot of social skills and getting kids ready for when they need to go to kindergarten, that they know how to line up, they know how to share, they know how to work with adults and take direction or corrective feedback. So a lot of social skills we work on. Here just talks a little more about that letters training. So we're focusing on understanding the science of reading, converting research to practice. Teachers will then take some things that they're going to pick a group of students that they're actually going to go in and use some of these strategies on and be monitoring throughout the year. So enhancing teacher effectiveness and then transforming their instruction. So we'll be working on that all throughout the school year. Here is our enrollment. So you can see the breakup of Garfield, Reg Ed, we have 432 students. Right now, we have 151 students that are in special education. 432 students are considered at risk. We have 11 migrant students. We have 256 ESL students. We do have a Spanish classroom at Garfield that's in the afternoon, and those kids will feed into Buffalo Jones Spanish track when they go to kindergarten. Right now, we have 6 students in there, so we keep collaborating with Buffalo Jones on how we can get more students in that classroom. We have 212 3-year-olds, 334 year-olds, 41 5-year-olds that have turned 5 since August 31st. We have 322 boys, 261 girls, and our total students right now is 583. At this time last year, we had 480. So you can see we're already 100 more students than what we had this time last year. And then in May, we had 651 students is what we finished the year with. But if you look at our projection from September last year, at 480 and ending with 651, we are going to be pushing close to 700 kids this year if we continue with that enrollment. So every classroom at Garfield is full. So we are going to need a new early childhood center, an additional one. So we definitely want to make sure that we are giving preschool services to as many kids in our district as we can to really help out when they show up to kindergarten so that they've had some experience. So, and then we have 100 staff members in our building.
Are we to the point, are we having to, is there like a waiting list, or we have to turn people away, or?
Not yet, not yet. Our morning fills up faster than our afternoon. So I'm not sure how many morning spots we do still have, but we'll definitely encourage families to take the PM session. But with some kiddos still taking a nap in the afternoon is usually why they're more hesitant to enroll in the afternoon. Yes, like adding that additional classroom last year, and now from this year, we know like we're gonna need more classrooms or there's gonna be a waiting list, so.
I kind of want to ask this real question, but it always seems like you have that crescendo through the year as far as number of kids. Why is that?
We do a monthly screening, and so that's advertised. We have Roy advertise that 2 weeks ahead of time. So parents call in and make the appointment for screening. So if they come through and they qualify needing an IEP or individualized education plan, we get them enrolled. Even if they don't qualify for an IEP and they could be a peer model, we encourage parents to get them enrolled. And then
We also accept students as they turn 3 from Russell Child Development Center. So
Yes.
as they transition from that program into ours, we accept new students the entire school year as they turn 3.
Okay,
yes.
That's a federal mandate, Mark. We have
Okay.
to take them on or before their 3rd birthday. And so where most kids like kindergarten, they have to be 5 by a certain age. We take them. So literally we'll be enrolling kids for Garfield in May because they'll turn 3 in May. And so they'll be with us for 2 weeks and then come back the next year.
so it's basically by design that it occurs that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
All righty. This is Miss Chelsea Shipper. She does our ESL. She's a 0.5 ESL and 0.5 instructional coach in our building.
Yep, so this is my second year in that position, my 10th year at Garfield. So for the school year, we have tested 296 students for qualification for ESL. Last year by the end of the year, we tested 352. And as we just said, we enroll students all throughout the year, so this number will most likely increase. So out of those students that were tested, 256 have qualified for ESL services. Last year, there were 319 that qualified. We did have 29 returning students that tested out of the program. 8 students did not qualify initially by scoring proficient on their oral language test. 2 students have dropped from enrollment and 1 has waived services. And then just a little bit of a breakdown out of those 256 students, 52 qualify for special education, 15 qualify for migrant, and 9 qualify for the McKinney-Vento program. And some of these students qualify for more than one of those programs. We have 18 different languages that have been reported on the home language surveys so far. And I just listed them out. So Spanish is our most prevalent, and then it goes down to our least prevalent. So like we only have 1 student for Quiche or Rohingya down there towards the bottom. And like Andrea said, we have a 0.5 ESL interventionist, which is myself. I have 2 ESL paras. They provide the intervention support for our 4-year-olds with the Hatch app that we have. So they do that with all of our 4-year-olds, but it also counts as some of the ESL intervention time for those 4-year-olds as well. And then I go in to the classrooms of unendorsed teachers to give direct services to those students. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt right in the middle, but can you say what some of those
Yes.
yeah, acronyms are? Just
Yes.
sometimes I know new staff may not know.
No, you're fine. So ESOL is English for speakers of other languages.
I mean, I'm sure it's obvious.
No, it's
I'm just-
okay. And then I don't know what ESER stands for. It's the
That's okay. That one.
We've heard that
one a
one's
lot.
grant money that we've gotten. But yeah, so like ESOL, or we use ESL, so like English as a second language. They're kind of, people use them interchangeably. Yeah, definitely. And so out of our teachers, 8 out of the 24 are endorsed. And so they provide those services to their classroom, and then I provide like indirect support to the teachers. And then I go into the classrooms that don't have an endorsed teacher that's ESL certified. And then also our music and movement teacher is ESL endorsed, so they do get some contact time through that class as well. Do you have any other questions for this program?
All right, so just a little bit of a breakdown for the special education realm. Last year we tested 122 children for special education. 83 of those were from Russell Child Development Center, and the other 39 were from our monthly screenings that we do every month. So far this school year, we've tested by the end of October 42 students. 12 of those are from Russell Child Development Center, and the other 18 are from the Child Find screenings that we do. We're projected to test about 26 children between now and January from Russell Child Development Center. And then of course, we'll pick up any other children from our October and November monthly screenings as well. So this puts us right on track to test at least 120 students, if not a little bit more, for special education this year at Garfield. We do have 2 RISE preschool classrooms, like Andrea mentioned. Currently, those classrooms serve 28 students. We serve 9 students in the morning class and 5 in the afternoon. We have about 5 more students that will be tested and potentially placed into those classrooms by January. And we try and typically keep those rooms under 10 students just because they usually have some more intense needs. They have limited communication, and we really try and work usually like 2 students to 1 adult per center to keep it at most enriching for the children. So we are potentially looking at having to open that 3rd RISE room next year, just as we see a need for that in the community for the students that we are getting in our schools. And then we have 1 resource teacher at Garfield. Currently she has 10 students on her caseload. With the switch in classrooms, we only have 4 general education classrooms this school year. And then next year, those will be merged into special education classrooms. She also services Head Start and any of the private preschools in town. We provide services as well. With the shift in the classrooms, we did move her position to a 0.5 this year, and she's actually also our Parents as Teachers Coordinator this year. But next year, we're considering possibly asking if we can turn that back into a full-time position to help with all of the evaluations that we do for our incoming students for special education testing. Yes.
Can you tell me what RISE stands for? too?
RISE is reaching independence through structured environments. And so really, they focus a lot on communication. They do a communication center every single day that the speech and language pathologist helps provide those supports, and then the pairs are able to help provide that communication support the rest of the week. A lot of ready to learn skills, how to follow routine, how to follow the schedule, and then pre-academics as they're ready for it too.
All right, I'm Sarah Gear. I'm the instructional coach at Garfield. And as Andrea mentioned before, we give, well, my ADs and then ASQ. And ASQ, as you guys know, is the state developmental screener for all pre-K and kindergarten students. And I only put one slide in here because I think you'll hear about ASQ a little bit more from Heather at some point. So I wanted to keep it pretty simple. But we give the ASQ3, which focuses on communication, gross motor, fine motor, problem solving, and personal social. And then the ASQ SE2, which is the social emotional piece of that. We have had 82% of our families finish those ASQs this year, which is a good number. We started ASQ, I think about 5 years ago. And we started real strong and then kind of had a decline. And then the last 2 years we've gone back up. So 82% is good. We were looking for 100, but getting those families in there is sometimes a little bit tough just to give them all the support they need. We did though have an ASQ day, September 9th, and 77% of our families actually came through on that day and completed them with help from our staff. So that was pretty fantastic. I don't know, Heather was over there. She saw kind of the craziness that went with it. So then my ADs is our screener for our kiddos. And we chose this year based on our WIGs that we showed you earlier, we're testing only kiddos going on to kindergarten next year. So we've given it to just those kiddos, and we're doing literacy and math. Those are the sub-tests that are within my IGDs. And then the next two slides are the data from our WIGs. So this one's our picture naming one. That orange and green are the two areas that are average. The orange is low average and the green is average. And so that's where that number, when we said I think 49 for picture naming, that's where they're going to land. And so right now we're at about 50%, 49%, and our goal is 100. So we've got a lot of work to do for picture naming. And then the next slide is our sound ID, and we have a little bit less. I think we're about 47%. And then that red is where they're below average. The gray is where they are not able to pass the sample questions. And then the purple is where we have not tested them yet. With our enrollment going the way it does, we like to give kiddos a few more days. We don't want to just have them enter and then get right to testing. So sometimes it takes us a little bit longer to get that done. So we have about 20 to 30 students who haven't been tested yet.
Now, do you do that beginning and end?
There's three times. We'll give it beginning of school year and then in the winter. So around the same testing window as the rest of the district, and then again in the spring.
And that's great data. And then you incorporate that into that rubric for kindergarten ready, that kind of thing.
Yes.
We have a couple slides on the sensory room for you. So this summer I was part of one of the presentations with Josh along the way for the sensory room and the funds that were used to purchase things out of ESSER. So this is our sensory room at Garfield. A sensory room is just a place for any student to take a break, maybe when they're feeling overstimulated in the classroom, or maybe they have too much energy in the classroom and they need to kind of get their wiggles out before they come back and are ready to learn in the classroom. So some new things that we were able to purchase with the ESSERS funds were the calming light up tunnel. So it's designed for kids who really need to kind of relax. So you can see it's kind of like a mat. You go in and then it lights up on the inside and it has some LED lights that kind of change color slowly for them to help calm down. We also got a sensory roller slide. This slide, so as you go down it, it lights up a little bit. And it's for kids who need that movement and they also need deep pressure. So they can slide down on their stomachs or on their backs and it just helps them kind of regulate their bodies as they're going up and down the slide. We also have some other sensory spaces in Garfield. The picture on the tile, that's a sensory pathway that's in one of our hallways. It has some different things for the kids to do. They can jump from, leaf to leaf. There's a bear crawl in there. They can do some wall push-ups. It just has some different activities and it all is letter and number based along the way too to help reinforce those skills. And then the other picture is one of our sensory walls. This actually was just installed at the front of the building. So it has just different things that kids can touch and move. Eventually it will light up once we can get the plug-in over there as well. But it's just another spot in the building for the kids to take a break when they're just feeling a little bit overwhelmed within the classroom.
This is Wendy Murray, our counselor.
Hi, Murray. Thank you. I've been with Garfield since December of last year. I'm very privileged to work there. If you could go down to my. Thank you. So I am full-time based at Garfield and I do a variety of things, provide a variety of services. First, I provide support to all students who attend Garfield. So I do classroom lessons. They will be every month. They are based on issues such as calming down, how to problem solve, how to make friends, how to recognize their own emotions and those of others. So we'll do that every month. I'm already about done with my first round of lessons, having a great time. Then I will also be doing groups, which will have typically 2 to 4 children, so we can work more specifically on issues. And what's nice about that is I'll have youth from different classrooms, so they'll be interacting with other students other than their normal peers. And those topics will typically be social skills, emotions, communications. I can also develop groups that are specific to the needs of the children in our class. In our school. Last year we had a lot of students who had new babies. And so we had some behaviors and emotions about that. And so I had a new baby group and we had all kinds of fun in that group. So that was really neat. And then also individual counseling where I work individually with the child. So that can be from a teacher referral or a parent can refer. If a parent refers, I typically then will reach out to the parent and we'll talk one-on-one so I can make sure that I understand exactly what they're wanting and do we need outside resources or how can I best serve that child. I also am a support to all the teachers and paras in school. Sorry, I'm so used to saying classroom. I do quite a bit of child observation. So if we have a teacher who's concerned about a child and behavior or emotions, they'll let me know about it and I'll come in and observe. And we'll then talk about whether a referral is needed or not. Regardless of that, I can provide emotional and behavioral interventions, suggestions to the teacher so that they can have an idea of, here are some ideas of things you can do to help the child have success in your classroom. Let's try it. Let's see how it works. Come back in a couple of days. We'll see how it's going. We can revamp it. We're always very fluid with our interventions. A lot of classroom support, working with children in the classroom directly. So if we have someone who's having a tough time during centers, I'll come in and be with that child during centers. If we have a tough time transitioning to recess, I'll come at that time. This morning we had a girl that we know has trouble coming to school in the afternoon and staying. And so we were able to intervene and we were able to actually use our facility dog, which we'll talk about here in a moment, which you've all seen, which is Sunny, who is the real rock star of Garfield. And then training, a couple of the slides up are just from a training I did at the beginning of the school year with all teachers in Paris. One more up. Why, thank you, Vanna. I did a training about calm down corners, just a space for children to have in the classroom where they can voluntarily on their own go and calm down, as it says, a safe place. So these are just some pictures. The one with the polka dot carpet is actually mine in my office. Okay, the next one. And then I also talked about co-regulation, and this is just one of the slides of that, where we use our calm to help the child calm, and we help them work through those big emotions.
So you go to that corner before you go out. And help
I have laid down in the corner, and I've had several teachers come and lay down in the corner too. And you're all welcome as well. Oops. No, I had one more. Sorry. Okay. Nope, one more. There we go. This is a little small, but I'm gonna make it work. Oh, here we go. Okay. Parent and community engagement. This is a big one for me. Just physical presence, being in the hallways, the classrooms, recess. So parents see me, kids see me, we say hi, we interact, just so parents know that they can trust me and that I'm a good person and it's great that I'm there. Communicating with parents, we can get requests from teachers, the principal, or their parents themselves if they need to talk about an issue. We had a family show up today that we didn't know about. We were able to get together and collaborate with the teacher and the family and work through an issue and come to a real successful end. Advocate for the needs of our kids to make sure that they're getting everything that they need. So in other words, making referrals for mental health, communicating with Kasb, a lot of communication with St. Francis, with foster care and adoption, either working on medical needs or even things like big brothers, big sisters. And the list could go on and on. And then one thing I really want to work on and I'm excited about is developing opportunities to engage the community with Garfield. And so some of the ideas I've come up with, these are just in the beginning chatting phase, is focusing on literacy. So having grandparents come and read to classrooms. And then also maybe working with the high school to get students or groups to adopt a classroom. And then they could come and read, come and be big buff buddies for our little buffs. And then last, like I said, we have a rock star. We have Sunny the dog, who she's over it at this point. Treats do miracles for Sunny. Come on. Here we go. Sunny actually belongs to Sarah. So she has two moms. Actually, I am called Miss Sunny at least 50% of the time, and that's okay. But Sunny is great. She comes 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. She just really helps give a calm, loving environment to the kids. And they ask about her all the time. And when she's not there on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they're pretty disappointed. So it's great to have that kind of home, a reminder from home at the school. And then it helps a lot if we have students in emotional distress or behavioral distress to bring Sunny. It works almost 90% of the time. Okay, thank you.
Sister Janice from Parents as Teachers. Right. And Parents as Teachers, the title is because if you stop and think about when the baby comes home from the hospital and what they're like at age 3, and if they're not at Garfield, what they're like at age 5, and the parents are the teachers during that time. So we are coaches to the parents and help them to understand where their child is in their development. We do the visits at home if possible. If the family doesn't want it there, then we do it wherever else we can or have it at Garfield. We get down on the floor at the eye level of the child and model for the parents that's how they get into the child's space for learning. We have handouts that go with each one of the months, and some families have 2 visits a month, some families have 1. We have a couple of families that want it every week. And if they're a high needs family, we are encouraged to do at least twice a month. We work through the summertime because a child keeps developing. If they're 13 months in May, they're not gonna be 14 months in September. So it's made it a little bit difficult to get full-time educators hired because they want summer off. Also, we do our home visits in the evening or on weekends at the parents' request. And we have some people that don't want to work that way. And so it's a bit difficult to get it. We do screenings every 6 months unless there's some reason why we want to do it earlier. And we use the ASQs and the ASQSEs also. Wednesday, we have a play group that goes through the whole year, and it's at Garfield. And the parents can come and have parent-to-parent time and the kids with other kids. And for some kids, it gets them introduced to the idea of Garfield and their parents as well. We check out toys and books to the families also. And I think that's it, and I'm gonna give you a flyer. And we have the flyers, if you turn it backside, it's Spanish on the other side. And we are serving people with other cultures right now. So a couple of our gals are using the language line, some of those 18 ones. And we think that it'll grow. After they find out that we can do it in Spanish. Have any questions?
So Parents as Teachers is a program for all parents essentially, right?
Yes.
And it's, I mean, it's a lot of traffic going on in that building.
Yes.
And we've been fortunate to be able to put Parents as Teachers right in there in the midst of all of that. And that's ideal in your mind? I mean, is that still working really well, or?
You're gonna need our space for something else.
Oh, there's that fear. Oh, I see.
I've been with Parents as Teachers, this is my 26th year, and we get changed wherever there's space that the school district has. And since they're growing so much, who knows how long
When
we'll be
we
there.
purchased the little Longhorn t-shirts, any kiddo that they were servicing got the little Longhorn t-shirt, so they
So they're
were
family.
transitioning right in.
Okay, that's
So they'll get
awesome.
the little buffalo shirt too.
So I asked that in part, number one, I know how long you've worked in that program. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And it's wonderful we're able to work together. I'm kind of wondering how that will work as we think about maybe another facility. I hope we can think in terms of continuing that partnership. Because I mean, you cover them before we get them officially. And
Yes.
it does take a community, so.
And then we can prove by the stats that if we start with a child at birth, we can figure out that they have a disability or some other kind of problem real early. And you can get it changed in 6 months at that age if you get the right services. And so they don't end up needing special services at age 3 or at 5 because of that. I had a little kid that had a problem with his eyes, and the oculist and the doctor kept saying, no, there's no problem. And so mother finally took the child to Wichita and he needed eye surgery. So you just keep going and trying to help them get the services they need.
And then communicating together too. I mean, it's wonderful to have the resources of 100 staff in that building to collaborate. So thank you so much for what you do.
We just keep on it.
All
Thank
right,
you.
that concludes our presentation, so anything else?
Well, thank you for what you do. Great. 4 and 5-year-olds have a lot of energy. And so I actually haven't been in that building yet this year, but I have been in the past, and it's a fun building, but boy. It's
Exhausting.
Yes, there you go. Thank you for what you do.
I
Thank
think
you.
border collies are good at herding too, aren't they?
They are.
Yep. We haven't let her loose out at recess, but she might end up doing that.
Well, there's been so much focus on the Early Childhood Center and all the programs, and rightly so, particularly with the numbers that you just articulated early in the presentation. And you just want them to start out good. It's amazing to me that rubric and that rigor that we try to put into getting them kindergarten ready. And some of the strategies that we employ, TKI and other sort of creations of this district and the collaborations too. I'm just proud of what you guys do for the community.
Maybe let me, okay, but I think in our culture right now, it's more important than it ever has been. Because you have parents on their iPads or whatever, and the kids on their stuff, and we can prove that it messes with the wiring of the brain. If that child is having more than 10 minutes a day, when it's really young, and they're not talking back and forth because they're on their things. So I think it's even more critical now.
The communicating and even some of the tried and true puzzles and I don't know,
It's on.
manipulation tools, things like that. You know, if you're on the iPad all the time, the kids don't do that. And so, and I know you guys are all over that. It's just fabulous that you're on the front lines. Thank you very much.
Well, if you think about how you use a pen or a pencil, if you're on their pads, you don't ever get that grasp.
Good point.
Well, and I've been
It's
hearing.
real practical stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been hearing too, how COVID affected like behavior, like that whole training and working with behavior. So those kids that kind of had that missed, I think your part of the process are really struggling. We're seeing that in kindergarten, first grade, that those kind of socialization skills are really, really, really important. So thank you so much again.
One thing I forgot to mention, but Sister hit on it just a little bit there. How are you on staff? I mean, there's 100 wonderful people there, but how are you doing?
I have 2 long-term subs in the building. One of them was a parent at Garfield, and she's started working on her bachelor's degree and wants to be a preschool teacher. So the other long-term sub loves subbing at Garfield and has done many long-term subs, so she just fits right in. And then I currently am needing 3 paras. So, I mean, out of that big of a staff.
And again, I don't know if you mentioned that. I think you did, but I passed over. How many paras make up that 100? Roughly 50% or?
55 to 60, yeah.
Okay.
We have to say we are serving 122 kids right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there any correspondence? We move on to the consent agenda.
Madam President, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passed. Board goals update, kindergarten readiness. That is you. I had read it farther along.
So I'm just going to present about ASQ tonight, which is very timely, goes well with Garfield's presentation. The ASQ is actually the Ages and Stages Questionnaire. It is a Kasb requirement for kindergarten readiness. Okay, so the ASQ is a developmental and social emotional screening for children from birth to age 6. We work with age 3 to 6. So we're screening all of our early childhood as well as our kindergarten students. Questionnaires are completed by the caregivers. In most cases, that is parents, but it can be grandparents, daycare workers, whoever knows the child best and can answer the relevant questions. It pinpoints developmental progress and catches delays in young children. So when you saw all the pictures at Garfield of them playing, there's planned intentional activities given to those kids based on the data that we get out of the ASQ. So some sample questions for the ASQ. There's actually 2 different questionnaires. The first is the ASQ3. It pinpoints communication, gross motor, fine motor, and problem solving. The ASQ SE2 is all social emotional development. So to meet this requirement, we had an ASQ day on September 9th. We had no kindergarten or preschool classes that day. And that allowed our staff to be able to support parents as well as meet and conference with parents about their results. Teachers called and set a scheduled time with the parents to come in. Our support staff helped them either understand what the questions meant or working with the kids in doing the activities that were asked to make sure that they could do them. And then the teachers met with the parents after the completion of the questionnaires to summarize what the results said about their children. So our early childhood participation, and I've been updating these as we go. So the numbers on this early childhood site look a little different than what you got in your board packet, because Garfield's still been working pretty hard to get parents to come in there. So they're just a little bit short of 82%. And it looks like in 2020, 2021, they did not do it in person. They sent QR codes home. Parents completed surveys at home. So that 37% is pretty low. Last year, they did an in-person event at Horace Good on a Saturday, and parents came in. We got up to 77%. This year, we moved it back into the child's home building. So to get up to 82% is pretty good progress. For our kindergarten group, again, that same pattern got pretty low, 2020, 2021, when we just sent questionnaires home. Last year, that in-person event, we got up to 71, and we are currently at 87.5% of our kindergarten parents have been in to complete the survey. So showing really good progress on those numbers as well. Ideally, we'd like to get up to that 95 to 100% range. So, we've still got a little room for growth next year. I was a little bit late to this party because I joined the committee on July 1st. Most of the planning was pretty far underway. So Melanie Garrison, I wish they would have stayed. Melanie Garrison, Sarah Gear, and Becky Alexander, took a lot of the planning leading up to this event over last spring and summer. But your principals and teachers have done an amazing job following up with parents, getting people to come in and working with parents to get this data so that they can plan and be the most effective they can be with our young children. So they've been outstanding. So do you have any questions? Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Well, we keep us moving. We've got another policy to kind of talk about tonight. This one is, it's towards the end of your packet, and it's really kind of lengthy, so I'm really not going to dive into a whole lot other than if you have some questions. But really, this policy addresses House Bill 2567. So last spring, our state legislature passed HB 2567. That was a large bill that had 14 different educational components in it. A lot of these were added in kind of at the last minute, and part of HB 2567 was student privacy and parent notification. So our policy just took the language directly from the law and directly from KSDE and just inserted it into the policy. Basically, it requires us, if there's a non-academic questionnaire, survey, or data that will be given to all students, then we have to require parent permission or opt-in for those data sets. If it's part of a curriculum or it's impacted in a way where curriculum cannot be completed, then the surveys are an academic need. So it just spells it out. There is some language in there and working with the counselors towards the end of the policy where it's looking about when counselors are working with students one-on-one and students are in crisis, that there should be every valid attempt made to notify the parent prior to the event. But if the student is in immediate crisis or immediate risk, then the Counselors can go ahead and do their work and assess the situation and then notify the parents afterwards. But the questions that are asked and the information that is given will be attached and given to the parent notification form that we already have. Our consultation with KSDE is really centered around what constitutes needing parent permission prior to or not needing it. And really their guidance in just a manner of being safer than sorry is anything that we have a question about or anything that we think could teeter on whether we should have parent permission or not is to give parent permission. The tricky part about that is parent permission is only good for 4 months. So once we have permission from parents, we have to conduct that survey within that 4 months in doing that. So what's going to end up happening as part of this policy, if and when you guys approve it, is our permissions, like for the Kansas Communities of Care Survey that's given normally in the window opens November 1 and runs till the end of January, and our 6th grade, 8th grade, 10th grade, and 12th grade have taken it in the past. We do that parent permission during enrollment in July. But when we do it in July, it's no longer valid in November. So we're going to have to do parent permission requests in July, October, and February. So there's going to be 3 times a year we're going to be asking for parent permission, because when we do My Sabers, which is part of our Fast Bridge testing, when we do the Kansas Communities of Care Survey, the Leader in Me has a survey that goes with it, as well as any of our social emotional curriculum that has that. So we're just going to have to do 3 times a year. We will do parent permission requests.
Are you gonna try to align that with conferences then, or do you have a plan for that?
Yes, we have a plan. I'm skeptical to share that plan quite yet because it's involving using technology. And so Roxy and I have had some short conversations about how we think we can do this most efficiently. Because enrollment is the best time to do it, right? I mean, everybody's having to enroll. You have the electronic signature for the Kansas Communities that Care. It pops up the letter. You say, yes, my kid can opt into it, or no, my kid cannot take that survey. And so we're trying to see what technical options we have right now to make it the easiest versus having to send letters home, collect them back, and then put that into a database so counselors and or teachers know which students can participate and which can't. Also, part of it, I think it is for sure in the policy, is that we will have to post the surveys that will be given on our school website. And so we've been working, Nick Passick's been working, we're getting that, as that data comes in from those companies, then we're getting a link on the curriculum instruction website to have those surveys posted publicly. The results of the surveys or No, the questions that are going to be asked, sorry. The questions that are going to be asked. Survey data and all that will just be handled internally. The Kansas Communities of Care Survey, of course, is one that helps local entities get grants based on that. Genesis, Compass, those groups like that get grant money based on the data that comes from the Kansas Communities of Care Survey. Our My Sabers survey is one that goes along with our social emotional understanding of what students, where their needs are, whether they're low risk, some risk, or high risk for social emotional needs. And then the Leader in Me survey is just helping students articulate how they learn best so that they can write individual goals for their learning plan. So any questions on the policy? Just following HB House Bill 2567 from the last year's legislative process, which is one of 14 components of that bill.
Yeah, go ahead.
We just heard about screeners in early childhood. So this policy applies to that, right?
So the ASQ is required by the state as part of our KISA accreditation. So
it's an academic.
It is considered an academic survey. Anything that we are asking, anything that is non-academic, a questionnaire or survey that's not used as part of a class. So the webinar we set in with the state, if Stuco is wanting to do a survey to put in the yearbook about your favorite pizza, that's a non-academic survey, but it's part of a class that's going into a publication that's only handled here. Also think of it, if there is a third-party vendor that's going to be administering the assessment, then we need to have permission for that.
The policies are written towards the last there where we could administer the screener, but then the first opportunity to have contact with the parent, we advise them of it.
Yes, and that is
So
for students in crisis. That last little language,
Yeah, that's, the counselors work with students in crisis.
It really does it say that anywhere?
Let me get my iPad back up.
I mean, it's just a question. I mean, I realize we're gonna have another opportunity.
It's the paragraph in the page before. If however, any district employee becomes aware that a student may be at risk of suicide by a credible report from the student, it kind of falls in line with that
So
language.
those two paragraphs work together.
Yeah. So then that second paragraph you were looking at, if the designated staff member is unable to verbally notify the parent or guardian of the student or obtain consent after reasonable attempts to do so, designated staff member may administer the risk assessment. So that's all in conjunction with students in crisis. Potentially in an ideation state. And our counselors have a flow chart of their steps and their roles that have been approved by the board. So all that we're kind of saying is if it's a low risk, if they can quickly determine that it's low risk situation, they should be contacting parents before they continue that. If they determine it's a high risk, they go through their continued flow chart. And then at first chance they can contact parents, they do that. But in both situations, they will share the questions that were asked and the answers that were given by the student. Again, it's not stated in this policy, but if that information comes across as an opportunity where our counselors become mandated reporters, they are then under the DCF and mandating reporting law to notify and report information, especially if it involves a potential parent situation or a custodial caregiver. So it kind of intertwines with a couple different things.
Well, that's what's kind of unusual about it. It's like you guys have got a lot of thinking here.
There's some webs there that we have to entangle, and I think the flow chart that the counselors have created is very good at that. And so we just gave some clarification. If it goes to the low risk side of their flow chart is to get parent permission really before they continue. If it's the high risk side, continue like they always have and just get all the information to the parents afterwards.
Anything that's an academic screener, motor control, social emotional.
Yes, the clarification from the state, because even a lot of these are falling into the gray area of the law. When the law was written, this was part that was pulled out from the Parents' Bill of Rights that was a separate bill and brought into HB 2567 as part of an omnibus big package. So they stripped a little bit of the language out and popped it into this one for parent transparency's sake. So this was the concession, you could say, on both sides of the political aisle to get some parent transparency, where some of those parts of the Parents' Bill of Rights was going a little further than some people liked. So this was the concession of it. So it does have a lot of gray area. KSDE has erred on the side of caution, saying if you feel like it falls into that gray area, give permission. And so we're going to follow their advice.
Well, it doesn't hurt to work closely with the parent in any case, so, okay.
We'll have all those surveys. We're working on getting those posted right now, the Kansas Communities That Care and our My Savers, because those will be the first two permission areas that will go out later this month if this policy is approved at the next meeting.
Has this policy, or is it going to be reviewed by legal or?
It has, and it comes directly from the state law. I mean, the law, that's literally the law language that you're reading. Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have election of delegate and alternate delegate for the KASB assembly that is Saturday, November 12th.
It's usually in Wichita. Is that where it is?
Oh, Wichita. And I'm not available to go that weekend, so I guess I'm curious who's
I'm not available to
interested in
go.
going.
We'll be out of town. They can vote, like, it's online.
We don't have to go, okay.
Oh, they have to be there in person. Oh, good, that's it.
It is, the KSB conference is actually very good. It's a good networking opportunity, and they have different breakout sessions that are intended for school board members.
I've attended a couple of times.
Great opportunity to just walk the halls and talk to people that are on school boards all over the state.
Sometimes they
As
take
well
you
as
on
our-
school- Yeah, and sometimes, sorry, Mark, sometimes they take you on school tours. It says it's runs from Friday, November 11th to Sunday, November 13th. I will be out of town for work.
So, but the delegates can vote without attending.
Yes, correct.
It's best, I mean, it's nice to be able to attend.
Has anybody ever attended years prior?
Yeah,
Dana's gone and Mark's gone, I think.
yeah. I think almost every year a board member has attended.
At least
Since I've
one,
been
and
on.
one year we presented as a school board.
I'll get John Wasey on that, you know, pretty quick.
But I'm wondering if, and to take care of this agenda item, if we could nominate leadership, president, vice president, as delegate alternate. And with also the understanding that that could be delegated if someone is actually attending in person.
Decides to go.
I'd like to do that.
Okay, I'm okay with that too. I might be in the air during voting time if we're traveling that day.
Is it usually on the Saturday when they do that?
It's on Saturday at 11 o'clock.
So someone just has to log in and vote.
Okay, that's fine.
So I would move that way if
I think that's an easy.
somebody wants to. Is that, do we need to make a motion in a second and take an action, or is that a consensus?
Should go regular vote.
Okay, so moved.
Okay, second? Discussion? No other volunteers? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
We should have told
Motion passed.
Andy, the new board member. has
That's
to
right,
join.
that's right.
How did we
I was
miss that?
wondering when you were gonna.
You wouldn't have known any different.
Well, the delegation option is still there.
That's right. Okay. We will move on to plant facilities. The bid for the pickup, I wanted to say us. Western Auto, we just wanted to have some discussion on that again.
Oh, yeah, this
Go ahead,
was,
John.
yeah, I asked for this one to be off the agenda, and if I'm misunderstanding this, just correct me, but my understanding was we had a bid that was approved, somewhere got lost in the shuffle, so the price of the vehicles went up. We rebid one, did we rebid everyone?
No, so in April, the board approved Western Motor as the winning bid. Lewis Chevrolet had a bid for two vehicles for $105,000. And they were a 2021 model with that were used with some mileage on them. Western Motor came and bid two brand new pickup trucks for $79,708. So there's a pretty big difference in those bids. So we awarded Western Motor during the shuffle of the plant facilities director and new secretaries. That PO was never sent to Western Motor to award that bid. To order them. So we reached back out to Western, trying to find out if they did get any communication or not. Found out that they didn't. So we gave them the opportunity to bid again to update their pricing. So anytime pricing increases from a bid, it has to go back to the board for approval per our auditors. So we had them rebid it, and it's about $9,000 more for two brand new pickups for 2023 models. So because it was a new model, that was the price increase of that bid.
So if you assume everything's linear, then Western's still gonna win the bid. I was just concerned of the optics of not bidding everyone the second time around. That's why I asked for it to be off the consent agenda.
Well, it's appropriate discussion. Thank you for doing that.
I agree. I don't know if the right thing to do is it should be rebid. I kind of feel like it should be. Just for the fact that we gave them an opportunity to provide, if they were providing and rebidding the exact vehicle just the price increased. Now it's a different vehicle, it's a new year. I think it's probably the right thing just to send that out to everybody and give everybody a chance to rebid. Since they're not, I guess, unless I'm misunderstanding it, they're not rebidding on the exact same vehicle they bid the last time. So nor would Lewis Motors or any of the other legacy, they would not do the same as well. So I think it's appropriate to, that would have to be rebid.
I don't know at what point, but I probably need to leave in that mode. So I will recuse myself here.
You're fine. Well, I think, absolutely, but the thought process was since, in fact, it's a bust on our side. It wasn't intentional and all that, but if we need to rebid it, that's fine. We'll just put it back out and just kind of go from there.
When bids were taken the first time, did they stipulate how long they were good for?
Typically, so in all of the paperwork I went back through and it isn't, typically you do see that on a bid that the quote is good for X amount of time. It was not in that case. I've seen most of them come through about with a 30-day bid guarantee.
I'm comfortable with sticking with this bid and going with Western Motor just because I feel like the process was there. I think kind of like John mentioned, we would most likely end up going the same direction anyway. But that's just my individual thought on that. So.
I want to make sure I heard everything correctly. So Western updated their pricing, but none of the other dealers gave a rebid. Is that right? Okay.
We just reached out to Western.
Okay, I understand.
Since they were awarded the bid in April and it was voted by and approved by the board, I felt that it was appropriate to go back to Western, get the updated pricing since they won it originally. That it wasn't really fair that since we dropped the ball to make everybody go rebid, potentially.
And in the process of doing that, though, it's still well below other bids that were provided earlier.
You can't say that now.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what they would bid now.
Could be different. Well, that's true. It's awkward as heck because what you don't want to do is get into a bid letting where everybody's sort of bidding against their last bid.
Right.
The other person's bid.
Well, and yeah, Western's bid has now been publicly put out there.
Well, I'm comfortable with going with it. It's just sort of resolving a messy situation. And it's unfortunate that we couldn't be straightforward and clean with the other bidders. But it is what it is. And I guess I'm comfortable with this bid. But certainly open to the outcome of the vote.
Has this been discussed with legal at all about?
No, this is one of the things that typically falls under what our CPA auditors recommend, but I'm happy to follow up with legal.
Have they given that recommendation for this or?
Not this one specifically, but in the past, just any time that a bid has come back more expensive than what was originally approved, the best practice is to take that back to the board to go back through approval process again.
If we rebid, how long would it take? What's the turnaround?
I could probably have it turned around back for the next board meeting.
Sure. So we got new information. The only reason we went one way because it was bookkeeping error on district side. That was the only, I think I'm hearing that right. Yes.
So I would make a motion.
I move we submit, or we ask for each dealership to resubmit bids.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? That we will request bids to be resubmitted by all, or is it gonna be open or to the ones that previously?
To the previous.
The previous.
Okay, let's make sure. It
Good clarification.
was mostly for me.
So previously, Lewis was bidding a used vehicle and Western was bidding new. So did the criteria of like the specifications of what they're bidding outline? I mean,
Yeah, in the original board packet, I believe it did say new or used with less than 10,000 miles. Hold on, let me open it. New current year or certified pre-owned year with mileage equal to or less than 20,000 miles.
I'd add just one thing, to the, I think before we move forward by the vote, this needs to be reviewed by legal as well. To make sure that we're doing things the way we should.
Either direction.
Yes. Because there is some real sticky areas dealing with.
Especially since it's been published. I think that makes it a little gray
I
area.
think I would feel more comfortable if we had some direction from legal.
Prior to voting.
Yes.
So just resend the motion.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that table.
Okay.
Table it pending coordination with legal counsel.
That's my recommendation.
I would move to do that.
So we need a
Or a second, I guess, second his
second
recommendation.
to table that.
No.
Vote to
On this table.
table that. All in favor of tabling the motion until we get some advice from legal counsel, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll go from there. And let Dana come back.
Okay.
Yes, I was like, dang, what's up? I've got some board open discussion. I'm just kidding.
Okay, well, you just volunteered yourself to start.
Okay, well, I'll gladly go first. As you might see, I was at
You
tennis
have some
today.
good things to say.
Yeah, Garden City High School girls tennis are your WAC champions, which is awesome. And yeah, Logan Bevis is coach of the year and Sydney Namigo was the WAC player of the year. So that's pretty exciting. So the girls had a great day.
Any relation?
Yeah,
Sometimes.
yeah, she inherited it all me. I win. No. It's just fun. It's fun to see the kids compete. We're so blessed to have people that give their extra time to coach and go the extra mile for our kids, traveling, weekends. I mean, it's just a lot. So I think our kids understand that it is a privilege to play, and I think they represent our school well. And so it's just fun as parents to be able to watch your kids grow in a sport as well and be successful and have ups and downs. So I know a lot of people do talk about, sports. It's always a heated discussion or a discussion that, carries a lot of different opinions that, I don't know, as a parent, maybe I'm biased because I've seen a lot of growth in my daughter, and that's really nice to see. So anyway, appreciate all the people who, like I said, go the extra mile, do the coaching, spend their time and energy on our kids. There you go. John?
I'd just say it was great to have the kids from Garfield in today. It was awesome to see them and have them participate in the pledge. And it was also very educational for me just to have the presentation from Garfield. And I think they brought up some, obviously we've talked a little bit as a board about reconfiguration in the future. I guess that adds kind of another thing to that process where they're outgrowing their current space. So gives us something to think about, but it's very educational. I appreciate that presentation.
Nothing specific to add, other than great presentations, good information, and feels good to have a full board.
Yeah, I think Christina and Lucas and Garfield, again, like I said, they're doing great things. It's just, I'm amazed, the hard work that people, and it doesn't matter what building you're in. I had the opportunity to go to staff meeting at Charles Stone's this week, and that was awesome. It's a great staff. I can tell they're a very close-knit group there, and everybody's just working hard, and I appreciate it.
Andy, your first board meeting.
Welcome. Thank you. No, I just humbled to be selected to fill this board position, and thanks for the opportunity to serve the school district.
Dr. Dominguez?
Was excited to fill out the board, and we're making, amazing strides. We had professional development Thursday and Friday. It was just such growth, and you do have to hone your craft. You have to put time and energy into it, and a great deal of effort, and that inertia that's been built up has just continued. It really did. We had AVID training, we had Leader in Me training, we had specific curriculum details. It was just amazing to see us grow, and I know that makes it difficult when students aren't in school, but it really did. I think we grew Thursday and Friday, and we just got to keep moving forward with those initiatives and keep moving forward. It was good. It was good design, great effort, and people took it serious and just moved forward. So it was good for the whole district.
Thank you. Okay, our next board meeting will take place on Monday, October 17th at 6 p.m. in the board meeting room. We will move into our first executive session.
Okay, Madam President, I move we go into executive session for how many minutes do you all think we need on this one? Jason?
10 minutes at most.
Okay, for 10 minutes to discuss a personnel matter pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under KONA, should I just say 7:30?
Yeah.
Beginning at 7:30, and the open meeting will resume in the board meeting room at 7:40. I would like to invite Dr. Dominguez, Jason Johnson, and Dr. Alporta to join us in executive session.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.